folks, what's up with this team? They lose in a shootout. Oh, no, wait. Tippity tap tap, they win. But are they playing well? Gio's hurt. And where have the Stars been of late? We're going to break it all down for you right here on the OZone.
You're in the offensive zone, your place for Leafs hockey.
Hey folks, welcome to the OZone. That's Coach. We love you, KD. I'm the Devo. We're here to talk all things Leafs. Look, Coach, I'm in the 6 at the HQ of the OZ. Where are you at today?
The OZ. That's OZ for our American subscribers. So I hear it's cold there in the big smoke, in the 6, as you call it. I'm in London, and it's rainy. But you've heard that story before. You got any snow there yet?
Not yet, but there's a few flakes falling down today. But it is it's chilly. Definitely cold. Listen, folks, before we get started, I want you to hit subscribe, ring the bell. You'll never, ever miss any content. Like and share the video. It helps spread the word and, of course, broaden the audience. But lastly, leave a comment. You'll get on the pod. Helps us get better, and we'd love to hear from you. Okay, the Leafs win a nail-biter versus those Panthers. Almost a bit of a must-win game in order to avoid another 3-game skid. A little bit of a back-and-forth game. We can call it an inconsistent effort. Gosh, they don't like winning in regulation, do they, Coach? What is going on with this team?
Hey, Florida's good, aren't they? Like, Florida plays a playoff style. They're on you all the time. And like coming off of that bloodbath the night before in Ottawa. That was nuts. Yeah. Yes. So they were tired, but they sure didn't look like it. So, yeah, of course. Great to get the win. What's going on with this team? Devo, the last pod, we called it out. The Stars are becoming our stars, right? We called this one. Our stars being Joseph Woll and Noah Gregor. Thank goodness for those guys, Noah Gregor. Hey, how about the Onions Keefe showed, putting him to shoot after that whole double tap thing? Gregor, he puts him in. I don't think he's ever had a shootout a chance before, and he goes and he wins. Good for him. But look, the Leafs aren't a very good team right now. I will say, I think that Keefe kind of foreshadowed this when they came back from Sweden. He said, hey, it's not always easy to get your bearings back again. And they were lackluster in those 2 games, Chicago especially. Like, that's a team you got to handle, right? Even when the Corey Perry circus hadn't even got to the big top, while that was going on. But I don't know. Something's just not there. And you mentioned inconsistency, Devo. I wanted to get your take on this. So I think it's fair to say they've been inconsistent, for all the year. And we said last year they had a huge November and everybody forgot about the early season inconsistency. Well, they've been inconsistent now for 2 months in a row, October and November. So how much do you think, we've already seen coaching changes, right, in the NHL? Edmonton, Dean Evison in Minnesota. Actually, here's a shot of this. I saw one of his last games. This was in Sweden. How much do you think Keefe should be worried about this inconsistency?
Well, look, we're going to get to it as well. Coaching is a funny thing. A lot of too many men calls against this team, too, which always falls back on the coach, although I don't know how much of it you can blame on him. I think a lot of guys are going early. But I will say this. It's funny we played Florida last night because Florida was a team that was a world beater, you remember, two years ago, almost a record-breaking season. They got into the second round and got knocked out. And what do? They trade one of their top scorers away. They fire their coach, guy who won the Jack Adams Award, I think. Fired him, brought in a new guy. Now, what was interesting is that they came out of the gate last year inconsistent, struggled through January was brutal for them. They started to come on, I think, in February and March. They made a late run. They made the playoffs in the last 2 games of the season, and then went on to a Stanley Cup run. So
Yeah.
I don't want to pin this on Toronto. Toronto didn't make any, major moves to their core. They didn't fire their coach. They changed their GM. They did try to mix up some stuff on the bottom side. They've changed the look of their power play. But nothing has responded yet. This is going to come out one of 2 ways. Either Shanahan is going to take a look at this, in my opinion, and go, "We've lost the plot. We gotta bring in some new DNA here," or they try to see if they have, for the next 2-3 months, figure it out and maybe make a run. I don't know.
I agree 100% with what you said. Isn't it interesting that it was Florida last night?
Yeah.
Here's why. Florida was tremendous 2 years ago, and they scratched in last year and had a long playoff run. Both of which the Leafs have not done in the Key Fair. They've been very good in the regular season, not 120 points, and they've never been on a run, right? So if you looked at those 2 teams and the style of play last night, is Florida that much more talented than the Leafs? I don't even think they're as talented. I think they play harder. And so does that mean they're better coached? I think you could make the argument.
Yeah.
Paul Maurice has them playing hard. They're a hard team to play against. I'm not sure the Leafs are. And so maybe you could say that's the roster. That group of players will never be tough to play against. Or maybe it's the way they're coached. I don't know. But this inconsistency is going to force some scrutiny here. I think you're right. I think Shanahan maybe takes a look if he's not already.
Yeah, I don't see how you can't. We had talked about it a few pods ago, that we sort of said, listen, if we were to compare it to previous years, things actually, the sky isn't necessarily falling. Look at these great runs we had in November and December. There's still a December, but I think both of us said, listen, if this team is fluttering around 4th, 5th place, 500 hockey at Christmas time, there's going to need to be a change.
Devo, are you saying that in a long December coming up, maybe this year will be better than the last?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I had no idea. I'm pretty sure Adam Duritz said that too, didn't he? Anyway, yeah.
Listen, let's get back to the game a little bit. Last night, 2 players went down fairly early. One of them ended up not being too significant. Marner came back, but Gio went down, didn't come back. Not much has come out in the local press here in Toronto. They're calling it an upper body injury, and the coach has already pretty much said he's going to miss some time. Any idea from what you're hearing with all your NHL contacts about what this injury could actually be, what we might be facing, and beyond that, who fills in? How are they gonna glue this sort of this group together?
Yeah, there's 2 perspectives in my mind to look at this at. So there's Gio, and then there's the impact on the team. So if I start with Gio, this is actually terrific. This is a blessing in disguise for Gio. And for us, if we want a fresh Gio at the end of the season and into the playoffs, because he was not that last year. They ground him into the ice. With all the injuries, he had to play 20-plus minutes, and he wasn't himself at the end, right? Actually, the way he plays, he should be a solid playoff defender, but the game was too fast for him because he was worn down. So, as I understand it, I believe it's his hand. I think he either pushed or took a shot or something, but it's upper body. He should still be able to skate, so he should be able to stay okay. We've been talking the last couple about, gosh, we got to get him some rest. It was never going to happen with all the other injuries they have. Now he's going to get some rest. However, the help is not on the horizon. Liljegren isn't even skating yet, so he's at least 2 weeks away. Probably more like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So now you're counting on Benoit and Lagesson. It's pretty thin back there. So remember about a year ago, had that rash of injuries and got through them. Guys like Liljegren and Sandin had to play big minutes. We'll see.
Mete,
The next 4
Hollowell.
weeks are it's gonna force your hand, right? Yeah, exactly. Either they really struggle and he has to pay a premium and pull the trigger early on a move. He does have Klingberg's money, right, to do that. So that might happen, or they kind of batten down the hatches here a little bit, just like last year, and you get through it, and then you're dealing more, and you get some organizational experience and all that. I kind of think it's the former, and I think there's going to be a move sooner than later.
Yeah, well,
I hope I'm wrong.
think I agree with you. I think both have to happen. I think deals have been being explored really since we recognized fairly early on that the experiments were not going to be good. And when you saw Liljegren went down, I think the organization really sort of flipped the coin and said, listen, this is Liljegren's year. He's either going to make it or we're going to have to do something. Well, he got hurt. So it's sort of the worst case scenario. Plus the other experiments have been a failure, really. Legacy, I will say some of the Legacy has been a lovely surprise, I think, for the team so far. He's going to get some time, and I think that's good. Let's get him as much action as he needs right now. Obviously Timmins starting to come online too. That helps a little bit. But I agree with you. I don't think they have a choice. If we know that there's some desperation in the organization based on what we said, that if they're hovering around here in 3-4 weeks, it's time to shake things up. Then they're in desperation mode. I think they got to make a move. We'll see if they're able to do it. If I'm out there and I have a great big defenseman, I don't want to trade him now. I want to wait until all the contenders have cleared the cap room to make a move. But maybe
it's almost like your window of teams that will actually trade with you and not maybe charge you a premium off your roster are those teams that are trying to tank, right? And so how many good defensemen are on those teams? Like it's pretty thin right now.
Agreed. Yep, for sure. All right, so just a few days ago, Coach, we were talking about how great the Stars were performing. I think we even threw a little graphic up there. Maybe I'll throw it up here again. But since then, the Big Five, 2 points in 3 games. Did we jinx them? What's up with the big boys? They seem out of sorts, Coach, and I can't explain it.
Yeah, well, sometimes everything goes in for you, like Nylander the first 17 games. Then sometimes you hit posts on back-to-back shifts, or you go down and you go post crossbar post. Now nothing's going in for him. They were saying the same up to about a week ago in Edmonton. And then 97 has, I don't know, like 20 points in his last 3 games. Like he's gone off, right?
Yeah.
So
sure.
maybe it sort of goes like this. But look, based on his history, none of us would have predicted that William Nylander would be the most consistent of this group. He has been not perfect. Look at the goal, right? Yeah. Against. I mean, he was not good defensively there. But he's been by far the most consistent of the whole group. It's almost like he's playing like he's got a contract coming up. Tavares has been good too. You've been on this all year, Mike. He's gained a step, or maybe, like he seems a little quicker. He's on it. He's giving you what you think you might get. He's never going to give you $11 million worth, but what are you going to do? That contract was so long ago. He's given us good minutes. And I think Morgan Riley's been good. He's been moving his feet.
Morgan Riley played a lot of minutes last night.
Boy, he played 30 plus. Yeah, that's also not sustainable.
That is not sustainable.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? Matthews, he's been okay. Like, he's been good, not great. He's been super streaky. And that guy prides himself on being the alpha every night. Yeah. I just feel like he's ready to break out. The problem, I think, is Mitch Marner, not because he's a bad player. He's a great player. He's just not quite there. I don't know what it is. He's not quite there, but he's too good to be this mediocre much longer. He's got to break out.
Mitch looks slow. And I think like a lot of these guys in the Toronto market, the pressure gets pretty big. You start squeezing your stick a little bit.
He's a local
And
guy too, so
and
you know he's feeling it.
yeah, and Matthews, look, it's funny. Last year, at the beginning of last year, you, me, and KD were going on and on about how, look, Matthews is in every play, but he's not finishing. He must be hurt. By the end of the year, it was kind of well documented. He had some wrist issues that he had dealt with the last couple of years. We saw him in the preseason and to start the season. The wrist was definitely not a problem. He was shooting the puck from anywhere he wanted to. But he's just not he looks indecisive out there. The old Matthews, there was no question. He knew what he was doing with the puck. Shot a lot of times. We're not even seeing that. I know the shot clock still says he's taking a lot of them, but they aren't those like, oh my goodness, what just happened kind of plays that we're used to seeing from him. I don't think it's an injury, folks. I don't think I think he's out of sorts. I understand why they shook up the lines. You got to do this every once in a while. I think they'll continue to do that. I think by the end of the year, I suspect, assuming Keefe is still the coach, 34 and 16 are reunited again. But you got to do what you got to do to get these guys flying. Matthews has a lot of goals this year, but let's remember he's got 2 hat tricks. He's scoring in streaks, as you say, and then he takes weeks off.
I found it interesting about that whole, splitting up Marner or not. Paul Maurice was asked about that before the game last night, and he said, hey, we do the same thing. We got Verhaeghe and Barkov.
Yeah.
Now let's – I know we're Leaf biased. That's not Matthews and Marner, but they're 2 good players. And he said, look, sometimes we play them together. Sometimes we play them apart. Not a big deal. I think they can get stale. So he mixes it up. So, it's a similar thing. It's not that big a deal. You should be able to play with different guys. Here's one other thing. The game before Keefe made that decision. So every game this year, except the last one before he changed, the Matthews-Marner line was getting the top opposition line, the best defensive line. Yep. And so even though Nylander was going crazy, even though Tavares was hot, even though Bertuzzi got hot on that line, they were facing the next best line until the Pittsburgh game. And so Pittsburgh went at it and they said, hey, actually the Tavares line is their best line right now. So maybe that signaled to Keefe, okay, I got to do something about the Matthews line.
I think that's true. It makes that call more obvious. I think he had it probably on top of his notebook anyways. I think it's kind of a feel thing for the coach.
You've been on it for years.
Yeah, I personally like that line construction better. I think you get more out of Tavares, which ultimately means you get more balance of scoring between the top 2 lines. But regardless, we need better play out of 34 in order for this team to even look like a 95-point team. He's got to play. He's got to put in a better effort. All right, listen. You got to love the play of Wall last night. We're way into this. We haven't even talked about him. 974 save percentage, and look, he shut the door in the shootout too. The PK. It seems like a year ago now since I was barking about the PK. Have they let in a penalty? Have they let in a shorthanded goal in weeks now? It's been great.
It was a penalty killing clinic last night. Both sides.
Yeah. Well, it's a penalty killing clinic when the Leafs are on the power play for the last little bit, and that's going to be my point here because the power play has gone anemic. Historically, it happens. This is where KD would be going nuts about crossing the wingers. But they've been doing that all year long for the most part with their power play construction. That's not the issue. What's happening, Coach? What is going on?
Devo, this is the part. If KD was still with us, and I miss him dearly, I know you do too, we could go get a sandwich right now because he loved talking about the power play. And yes, he liked to cross the wingers. The wingers are fine. The flanks are fine. My take on, I'm going to try and do my best Devo here and analyze this.
Yep.
Number one, Guy Boucher is running the power play. He's a defensive coach. He put that trap in Ottawa. But anyway, all right, fine. Here's what he's working with. I think 4 of the 5 guys are in the right spot. You're always going to have a D up top. That was Klingberg. He was okay. It's Riley now. He's okay. But you need AD, right? I think the optimal setup is Nylander on his off wing, Matthews on his off wing, and Tavares in the center. He's always been good there in the center. I think those 4, that's as good as you're going to get. And that's been top 5 in the league forever, right? That's the top 5 talent for power play in the league. The guy who's out of place is Marner.
Yep.
So last year, Marner was on the flank. Actually, he didn't like the off flank. He liked to be on the strong side, which drove KD crazy.
Yes.
I think it's been proven now, and it's not just chicken and egg with Nylander's season. He's a better option on the flank. He has a better shot. He's good on the flank. So now you got to fit Marner in on that top unit because you feel like you have to. And he's the net front guy. He's the smallest of all of them.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense for him.
Yeah, he's not. There's no great spot for him. If you look at Washington's great power plays, Backstrom was on his offside, and he was a distributor from the side. McDavid is on the offside. He's a distributor from the side. But I can't have Marner there at the expense of Nylander being the net front guy. I think 4 of those guys are good. I would do this. And, oh, man, you know what? This guy's he's going to sulk. Paul Marner's going to lose his mind. But I would take, for now, Marner off of that unit. I'd put somebody big and greasy in the net front place. I'd put Bertuzzi or even Nyes there.
Nice. Yep.
Right? And then we're just firing it, and we're going to get rebounds. KD was all about volume of shots, right?
Yep.
Well, Marner's not screening anybody. First off, he's not even there. He's off to the side wanting the puck. Yeah. So that's what I'd do.
I love that. And also, what's so wrong with being on the second power play?
Wait, Willie was okay with it, right? Like he everything on the second power play unit last 2 or 3 years ran through him, and he was good. He was the guy you drop past to. He'd go in, take it in the zone. Marner could do. Maybe it gets him going.
Maybe it gets him going. That's exactly it. And agreed. And you can also shorten that top line out there. They don't have to play, a minute and 45 seconds. Yeah. They're sawing logs by the end of their shift anyways. So it's not a bad idea to kind of try to freshen them up a little bit. I agree. I think that's a reasonable way to approach it. I don't know if there's some egos in that room, and you also don't want to kill a guy's confidence and sort of. It's hard not to take that as a demotion. So we'll see how they play that. But,
you know what? So hey, I don't know if you my new buddy Steve Dangle on their podcast, they were talking about he is so sensitive, Marner, like. And, 90% of what's talked about with Marner is positive. We've been positive about him.
Yep. He's
not himself. He's the first one. He's already admitted that. But, yeah, you're right. It sure feels like he would be crushed by that. And I wish he wouldn't be.
Well,
who wasn't crushed by not being on the first power play unit was Nylander. He's like, all right, fine. Yeah, put me on I'll be on the other one. Like, he's such a happy-go-lucky guy that, of course he's competitive, right? But he's not going to let that get to him. You got it. We need a little more of that.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's reasonable. All right, folks. Well, there you have it. That's what we got for you. You keep tuning in, and we'll keep bringing you the goods. We love dishing the goods for you right here on the Ozone.
KD, I hope I did that okay.